The story that we're going to read is Latke's Good to Eat. Does anybody know what a latke is? Yes.
I forgot.
Okay. Yes, hon?
It's kind of, it's, I think it might be like gingerbread.
Not really.
It's kind of like a potato.
Yes, it's made from potatoes, right? And you make it from potatoes, and you make it into something that's kind of like a word that starts with a P and ends with an E.
Pancake.
Yes, potato pancakes. Good guessing. That's great. Okay, so,
Yeah.
all right. So, we're going to read Latke's Good to Eat, and the name, the person that wrote it is called Naomi Howland. And when a person who writes a book is called, pardon?
Illustrator and author.
All right, she's the author. Very good. Person who writes a book is called an author. And I've heard that you are also wonderful authors because you write great stories. Is that true?
Yeah.
All right, way to go. Following that curriculum. Way good. Okay, just checking. Okay, ready? Once, on the outskirts of a tiny village, a girl named Sadie lived with her 4 little brothers, Herschel, Hillel, Chaim, and the baby Max. Their mama lived there too, but she was away helping Aunt Rose with her new baby. The family was so poor that the 1 coin in Sadie's purse never had another coin to keep it company. Their house was so drafty, the wind whistled through it like a train going to Moscow, and they were always hungry. This year, the first night of Hanukkah was the coldest night yet, and the snow was deep. Sadie said, "Boys, go out and gather some firewood." "It's too cold outside," Herschel said. "You go." And he pushed Hillel to the door. "It's too dark outside," Hillel complained. "You go." And he pulled Chaim to the door. "But wood is so heavy," Chaim whined. "You go." And he pointed to Herschel. Sadie sighed. "I will get the wood. Watch the baby until I return." Sadie's boots sank into the new snow. She walked from tree to tree, picking up fallen branches. An hour passed. It got colder and darker, and a bitter wind began to blow. At last, Sadie packed up the wood and turned to go home. Suddenly, a twig snapped. Sadie whirled around to see a bent old woman standing before her. The woman's face was as creased and lined as a bit of wrinkled cloth. The old woman sneezed. "Achoo! Bless you, Auntie," Sadie said. She noticed the old woman's shoulders trembling. Her coat was shabby and thin. "Are you cold?" "Oh, I am, dear," said the old woman, shivering, "and I have no more firewood." She blew on her hands to warm them. Sadie didn't hesitate. "Please take this wood for your fire," she said. She piled all the wood she had gathered into the old woman's sack. "Thank you," said the old woman. "You are a kind child. Now I have a gift for you." She unhooked a frying pan from her belt. "When you are hungry tonight, put this pan on the stove and say these words. Latke's good to eat. Cook me up a Hanukkah treat. When you are not hungry anymore, say, a great miracle happened here." "Thank you, Tante," Sadie said. "Never forget the words I have taught you," warned the old woman. "Keep them a secret. Only you may use my gift." With that, she hobbled off into the forest. Sadie ran home. "Quickly, boys, let's light the menorah," she said. "I have a surprise." As soon as they had said the blessing and lit the first candles, Herschel said, "What's the surprise? And where is our wood?" asked Hillel. I met an old woman in the forest, Sadie explained. I gave her the wood because she was so cold, and she gave me this frying pan. What? A frying pan? Cried Herschel. We don't even have a fire. We don't have any food, I complained. Just watch, said Sadie. She put the pan on the cold stove and whispered the old woman's words. Latkes, latkes, good to eat. Cook me up a Hanukkah treat. At that moment, fire danced under the frying pan. Right away, 5 golden latkes sizzled in oil. The 4 little boys crowded around the stove. How'd you do that? Asked Herschel. The old woman told me not to tell, answered Sadie. As soon as she put the latkes on their plates, another 5 latkes sputtered in the pan. Can I try? Asked Hillel. No, let me. Chaim pushed his brothers aside. No, said Sadie. Only I can use the frying pan. When the plates were heaped high with latkes, Sadie whispered, a great miracle happened. And the magic frying pan stopped cooking just like that. They ate and ate until their stomachs were full. The next night, after Sadie and her brothers lit their menorah, Sadie set the frying pan on the stove. In a hushed voice, she repeated the words, latkes, latkes, good to eat. Cook me up a Hanukkah treat. Immediately, a fire glowed under the pan, where 5 delicious latkes were sizzling. When the plates were heaped high, Sadie said softly, a great miracle happened here. The frying pan stopped cooking just like that. Whoa. Each night of Hanukkah, the children sat down to another tasty dinner of potato pancakes. Then, the afternoon of the 8th night, Sadie put on her shawl. I'm going to find the old woman and invite her to eat latkes with us tonight, she said. I will cook them when I get back. Take care of the baby and be good boys. And don't touch the frying pan. All together, the brothers nodded their heads and solemnly said, we promise. You think the boys are going to play with the frying pan?
Yeah!
Okay, well, let's see. All right? I think I'm with you. I can think of it. Okay, ready? Only a minute after Sadie had closed the door, Herschel boasted, I heard the secret words. You did not, said Hillel. And we aren't supposed to touch the frying pan. I did too, said Herschel. We can eat just a few latkes, said Chaim. Sadie won't know. Max the baby said, latkes, latkes. The boys looked at Herschel. Herschel looked at the pan. It's easy to use the frying pan, he said. Just watch. Put the frying pan on the stove and said, latkes, latkes, good to eat. Cook me up a Hanukkah treat. The stove lit itself with bright flame. At once the frying pan was filled with 5 latkes sputtering in oil. When the latkes were hot and golden brown, Herschel said, great, here a miracle happened. The frying pan began cooking 5 more latkes with tender centers and crisp lacy edges. We have enough, brother, said Hillel, but the frying pan kept on cooking. The little boys piled their plates high with latkes. Here, great miracles happened, cried Herschel. The frying pan cooked up 5 more luscious brown flecked latkes. The boys, I think, are in trouble. What do you think?
Yeah, very.
Ooh, big time trouble. The 4 boys ate fast, but the frying pan cooked faster. Soon they had filled every dish, all the mixing bowls, and the wash tub with steaming hot latkes. Chaim cried, stop, frying pan, stop! But the frying pan cooked up 5 more latkes, savory and salty. Happy green miracles here, Max yelled, but the pan kept on cooking. The boys hid latkes in the cupboard and under the bed. They fed latkes to the cat. Oh, my goodness me. Soon latkes were spilling out the door. The smell of potatoes and onions and oil floated through the village. The shoemaker stopped cobbling to sniff. The fishmonger, holding a fresh carp, paused to breathe in the fragrance. The village gossip even stopped talking long enough to inhale the aroma of Hanukkah cooking. Meanwhile, Sadie had walked deep into the blue-shadowed forest. "Tanti, Tanti," she cried over and over, but there was no answer. Where could the old woman be? Soon the sun would go down, and Sadie needed to be home by dark to light the menorah. Now she wasn't even sure she knew the way home. Bony branches scratched the sky. Sadie shivered. "Tanti," she called again. The wind whistled through the dark trees. It carried a tantalizing aroma. What aroma do you think it was? Yes.
Me?
Yes.
I think it was the Hanukkah tree.
Yes, aroma, it means smell, and she was smelling those latkes. There was a rustle of dry leaves, and the old woman appeared. Before Sadie could say a word, the old woman held up her hand for silence and sniffed the air. Sadie too breathed deeply. Potatoes, onions, oil, latkes. "Oh no!" she cried. Following her nose, she began to run with the old woman close behind. Went through the snow. When Sadie reached the edge of the village, she could not believe her eyes. Her house had almost disappeared under a mountain of latkes. She scrambled up a pile of warm latkes and looked in the window. Her brothers were standing at the stove, eating latkes as fast as they could. More latkes sizzled in the frying pan. "A great miracle happened here," Sadie shouted, and the frying pan stopped cooking just like that. Herschel, Hilla, Chaim, and the baby Max promised, "We will never touch that frying pan again." Sadie put them all to bed with tummy aches. Too many latkes. But what will we do with all these latkes, she wondered. "I could carry them away," said the village porter. "I could sweep them up," said the broom seller. "We could eat them," said someone else. It was Mama, home from helping Aunt Rose. "We'll have a Hanukkah feast," said Sadie. "Everyone is invited." What a party the village had that night. There was singing and dancing and dreidel playing, and of course there were latkes. Golden, tongue-burning hot, tender yet crisp, lacy, luscious, brown flecked, savory, salty, a scrumptious latkes to eat. And no one in the tiny village was ever hungry on Hanukkah again. The end. Wow. You guys were a fan. Thank you. What a wonderful audience you were. Terrific. I am very impressed. This is the best 5th grade class I've ever.
Marley on your bottom.
And this story is The Gingerbread Baby by Jan Brad. And we have our life-size gingerbread baby to help us with the story. It was cold outside. It was warm inside. A fine day for gingerbread, Maddie thought. Maddie's mother put the blue bowl on the table and lit the stove. Maddie put down a worn-looking cookbook with old-fashioned writing on the cover. He opened it up to the page that said, Gingerbread Girl. Gingerbread Girl. They measured and mixed. Maddie rolled the dough into the shape of a gingerbread girl, and they popped her in the oven. Bake a full 8 minutes. No more, no less. Do not peek. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4, 5. Maddie couldn't wait any longer. He opened the oven door to take a peek, and instead of a gingerbread girl, out jumped a gingerbread baby. She pranced around the big blue bowl.
I am the gingerbread baby, fresh from the pan. If you want me, catch me if you can.
Maddie's mother reached for the gingerbread baby to put her back into the oven, but she ran all around the kitchen. The door opened and in came Maddie's father. "What's that delicious smell?" she asked, as the gingerbread baby tumbled through his legs and outside into the yard. He ran by the tabby cat. She twitched her tail and sprang at him. They rumbled and tumbled, but the gingerbread baby came out on top. He ran toward the garden wall. The dog caught a whiff of the tasty ginger and sniffed along behind her. But the gingerbread baby was halfway up when the dog caught up. He barked and barked as the gingerbread baby climbed over the wall. Matty was inside. He heard his mother and father yelling. He heard a cat meowing and a dog barking. And he heard the gingerbread baby shouting,
Catch me if you can.
Matty opened up the worn-looking cookbook for the second time. Meanwhile, the gingerbread baby wheeled on down the path and into the barn. The goats looked up as she somersaulted across their backs. The last one tried to catch her, but the gingerbread baby was too fast. Martha and Madeline were standing by the well when the gingerbread baby stopped to take a drink. They looked at each other and winked. Martha started to talk to him while Madeline tiptoed up behind her with a bucket. But they couldn't fool that gingerbread baby. He took a braid from Martha and a braid from Madeline and tied them in a knot and ran on down the road. Back in the house, Matty stirred, mixed, and rolled the dough. He shaped it, put it in a pan, and into the oven. Tick, tock, tick. 8 long minutes, and this time he didn't peek. I will catch her if I can, Matty said to himself. As she was bouncing along, the gingerbread baby saw a farm wagon just ahead. She jumped in and settled down for the ride next to Mama Pig. The smell of gingerbread was too much for her. She tossed him high in the air, closed her eyes, and opened her mouth. But the gingerbread baby twisted in the air and came down hard on her porky snout.
I am the gingerbread baby. Too quick for the mother and the father. Too fast for the cat, the dog, the goats. Too clever for Martha and Madeline. Too smart for the Mama Pig. Who's left? Catch me if you can.
Feeling smug, the gingerbread baby strolled along by herself until she came to a bridge that crossed over to the village. Just as she got to the middle, she heard running feet behind her and saw a crowd of villagers ahead of her. The gingerbread baby was trapped. She jumped up onto the railing, backflipped through the air, and landed on a chunk of ice floating down the river. The ice bobbed along with the gingerbread baby dancing on top and singing in a loud voice.
Look at me, and what do you see? The best gingerbread baby ever.
Until her feet got cold and she jumped ashore. Who was watching from the trees? It was the fox, who crept up behind the gingerbread baby, ready to eat her up. But the fox couldn't help himself. He licked his chops, smack, smack. The gingerbread baby heard him and ran as fast as she could. Just when the fox was catching up, the gingerbread baby saw the milk and cheese man with his can of milk. The perfect hiding place, she thought. She lifted the lid and lowered herself inside. She was so pleased that she sang at the top of her gingerbread voice.
Ha ha, hee hee, you'll never find me. I'm the gingerbread baby. Catch me if you can.
The milk and cheese man heard the gingerbread baby's voice. Who's meddling with my milk? He shouted and lifted the lid. But the gingerbread baby was ready. She jumped up and tweaked his nose. Now the milk and cheese man, the fox, the villagers, the Mama Pig, Martha and Madeline, the bleating goats, the barking dog, the meowing cat, the mother and the father were all after the gingerbread baby and getting closer. And she knew it. That brash baby was not as peppy and proud as she had been. She sniffed a familiar smell and followed her nose into the woods. She couldn't believe what she saw. There in the middle of the clearing was a gingerbread house, frosted with sugar, covered with candy, and the doors with peppermint handles wide open. The gingerbread baby clapped her hands with glee and ran inside. In a tick-tock-tick, everyone arrived at the clearing, but all they found were a few bits of frosting and a peppermint candy and some crumbs. The father exclaimed, "The gingerbread baby has finally met his match." "I wonder who it was," the mother said. "Let's go home and tell Maddie." "Hello, Maddie," his father said when he got home. "We never did catch that gingerbread baby. All we found were crumbs in the snow." "I see you've been busy," his mother said, looking at the gingerbread house Maddie was holding. "Too bad we never caught that gingerbread baby. Too bad," said Maddie. Only Maddie could hear the tiny voice from inside the gingerbread house.
I'm the little gingerbread baby, lucky as can be, to be living in the house that Maddie made for me.
You love stories. You were a fantastic audience for 2 stories. So, this is the big moment.
Another one?
Another story.
Take it, my friends.
Thanks, Marley. I can tell you enjoyed it. Well,
my friends.
think in your head and raise your hand if you think you know who the gingerbread baby is. Andrew. Who do you think it was? Not Andrew. No, I know your name. Alexander. You want to ask a friend?
Connor. Mrs. Honeywell.
You think it's Mrs. Honeywell?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Anyone have another idea? Do you have another idea, Chloe? You think it's Mrs. Dillon? You know what, Chloe? Who is the voice of the gingerbread baby?
Mrs. Dillon.
Another idea who the gingerbread baby could be? Jack, Max.
Jack.
Maybe Miss Fisher?
Oh, Miss Fisher.
Oh.
Well, should we show her